If you follow me on social media, you're probably sick and tired of me using this term, a 1031 exchange. I'm doing a 1031 exchange. I sold a property, I'm going to defer taxes, i.e. not pay any taxes, buy another property, and I'm going to use the 1031 exchange as a vessel. So what is a 1031 exchange? Stick around. We're going to do a quick little deep dive into what it is and how you can use it to further your investment portfolio. What is a 1031 exchange? Well, first of all, the name derives itself from the IRS Code 1031. Why we don't say 1031, I don't know. We call it a 1031 exchange. But what is it? Let's quickly read the definition. So I am looking currently at the IRS Code 1031. In general, no gain or loss shall be recognized on the exchange of real property held for productive use in a trade or business or for investment if such real property is exchanged solely for real property or like kind, which is to be held or either for productive use in a trade or business or for investment. Let's break that down further. Why do you want to know how to use or execute a 1031 exchange? First of all, let's talk about the fact that this is not for the person trying to sell their primary residence and use some funds to go buy an investment property. No, this is only going to work from investment property to investment property, okay? And I'm gonna give you some examples of some real life stuff that's happening in my life, but let's again talk about overall concepts. If you sell a $100,000 property and you're gonna make $50,000 on that because you did great on you, well, do you wanna be taxed on that $50,000 and only get to use $30,000 on the next purchase? Or do you want to use the entire $50,000 to purchase a bigger and better property? That is exactly why you want to use the 1031 as a vessel. Because if you use this exchange platform, you do not have to pay one penny of taxes on that $50,000 worth of profit as long as you roll that entire profit over into a property that is equal or greater value to the one that you just sold. So again, I just sold a $100,000 property. That means that I have to buy equal or greater value over here. Why am I going to do that? I'm about to give you my real life example. I'm selling a single family residence to buy a quadplex. I was making about $250 a month on residual income on this little property, but if I go over here and buy this fourplex, I can make $1,000 or $1,100 a month. Do I want to do that? Yes, I do. I'm going to make $67,000 on selling this single family home. I want to use all of that as my down payment to purchase this fourplex. And as long as I meet that criteria of equal or greater value, I get to use all of that money and I get to put it down. And guess what? You can do this over and over and over again until you die and never pay taxes because everybody is benefiting. As long as I, the investor, am continuing to put my money back into the market and continuing to invest, everybody benefits, and that's what they want you to do. So one of the biggest key factors is you're never gonna sell a property and touch any of the money. You're always gonna put a middleman into place, and they're actually called a 1031 Exchange Facilitator. So once you sell this property, the money's gonna go into this little piggy bank. This exchange facilitator is gonna hold on to it. I'm never gonna touch it. And then they're gonna make sure that that money rolls over into the next property that you purchase. What is like kind? Now, I have taken a few different 1031 exchange classes, and every time I go, I learn something more baffling or more cool or more amazing. Because if you've never done a 1031 exchange, one of the biggest hangups or the things that I definitely overthought was like kind. The like kind, again, is the part that I used to always get like very concerned and just worried about. Well, I'm selling a single family residence, so can I buy a quadplex? Or better yet, the question that I asked just a few weeks ago myself, just to make sure, is could I sell a single family residence to buy commercial? The answer is yes. Really, the concept when you think like kind is real property. So think property, structure, something that looks very similar to a house. I've done a 1031 exchange on an investment property for a cabin, and I was even concerned about that. Like, well, it's a cabin. Is that like kind? We just get way too wrapped around the axle on like kind. So kind of do a little bit of research, but just know that you're exchanging real property or a home or a building for another piece of real property, home, building, commercial property, etc. I definitely encourage you, though, to go look at the gray areas, because I've heard some really cool things happening, like people buying cell phone towers and things like that with the exchange, so that's fun. But we're going to keep this super basic. So you're selling real property to buy real property. That's number one. The second biggest thing, and really there's a couple here, the timelines, I think, in my opinion, are actually the most difficult. So the very first thing that you need to know is that you have a 45-day identification window. So I want to sell a property and buy a property. Within the 45 days of selling this property, I need to identify which property I want to buy. And they actually give you a sheet of paper, and they're so kind. They give you 3 different lines. So you can actually fill in 3 different properties, because it's real estate, for God's sakes, and things happen all the time. One deal you may lose, and now you're in a really tight timeline. So hopefully one of the other 2 properties that you identified works for you. But the big thing is 45-day identification window. Something that I've learned is that I do not wait until this property has closed to start looking for what I want to buy, especially in this market. I mean, my goodness, it's so tough. I've actually been looking in multiple markets. I have kind of my fingers or toes or all the things in all the different pools way before my property ever closes. Because if I wait, I mean, it's almost impossible to hit that 45-day window. More often than not, I almost even have a signed contract when I'm closing over here. I'm just itching to sign. So I'm really lining myself out, and I would say that to me and to you, the viewer, I think that 45-day identification window is probably one of the most stringent and hard things to hit. So pre-plan. Okay, we've talked about the 45-day rule and how I feel like that's kind of the toughest first yard line. I don't know football, I shouldn't be talking football, but that's one of the first steps that's the most difficult to get to. Now we've got another set of timelines that you need to do. Once you've identified a property within that first 45 days, then you need to execute that purchase within 180 days. A lot of times we'll say 6 months, but technically it's 180 days. Your exchange facilitator will actually give you a document that gives you the exact dates. So once you close on the property, they're going to count out 45 days and say, hey, you need to identify this property by said timeline. And then they're going to give you another date. Actually, I have a video for you. So I just sold a property, and I'm going to be making about $67,137.68. I never touched that money. That is key. Now I have an identification period where I have to find another property to buy, and I have to do that before December 9th. And then I have to actually get that accomplished by April 23rd, 2022 to not be taxed on this $67,000. Okay? So you have an identification period. That is 45 days, which for me is December 9th. And then I've got to close within 6 months, which is April 23rd. So, hence me wanting to buy fourplexes. So your exchange facilitator is going to tell you when your 180 days is up. So a lot of people will say 6 months. Don't get caught in the trap of like, oh, I have 6 months. You have a very specific date. You have a 45-day identification window. You have 180 days to actually close out your transaction as well. So your exchange facilitator is going to give you a document, and it's going to give you the exact dates. They're going to be highlighted like this one up here, because I just had to review this and say, yes, I understand that these are my dates. And that's the time frame that you have to execute this. So timelines are probably the most difficult thing on a 1031 exchange. Make sure you know exactly your timelines and when you need to have this fully executed. And oh yeah, if you don't hit those timelines, then be prepared to pay Uncle Sam, because Uncle Sam is sitting in the wing and he's waiting for your money. It's kind of like a game. I don't want Uncle Sam to have my money right now. I want to use my money. So make sure that you're paying attention to that. A question that came up just the other day when I was doing a bunch of social media stuff. So again, if you don't follow me on Instagram, maybe do that too, because I'm trying to take you through a lot of this like stuff that's happening in my life. But I was posting about the 1031, and somebody that's actually in real estate and I respect a lot chimed in, and he said, well, what happens if you don't spend all of the money that you made from property number 1 to property number 2? That's a great question. There's actually a term for that. So let's go back to examples because I'm a mom and I like examples. So you're selling a $100,000 house. Again, you're making $50,000 and you need to go and buy a house that is equal or greater value. Well, let's say that, I don't know, you want to pay off a car too. So you don't end up using all of the $50,000. You only end up using $40,000 on your next purchase. That means that you have $10,000 out there that you haven't used. And if you want the exchange facilitator to cut that check back to you, the 10 grand, well, guess who wants a piece of the pie? Uncle Sam. He's going to be waiting there right in the wings. So you're going to have to pay taxes on that, and that is called the boot. That's kind of funny. The boot. He's giving you the boot. So don't give him the boot. Spend all the money. That would be what I would try to do. Spend all the money. But again, if you don't, or you can't, or for whatever reason, just be prepared to pay taxes. So to wrap up this conversation, if you are an investor and you want to sell a property and buy a bigger, better property that's going to make you more money, maybe you want to use a 1031 exchange as the vessel to get there. So the very first thing you're going to want to do again is find the 1031 exchange facilitator, because that person can make or break you. I've got a great company I've been using. If you want any suggestions, go ahead and drop some comments below. They've been great. I think I'm on my 5th exchange with them now, so everything has always gone very, very, very smoothly. It's very easy to do. The next biggest things that you need to think about are your timelines. 45-day identification window to identify 3 properties, close on one within 180 days, and there you did it. You sold the property. You moved all of your proceeds onto a bigger, better property that's going to make you more money, and you didn't pay a penny in taxes. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure that you're subscribing, liking, commenting, doing all the things. And remember, when you have any kind of questions about home or investing or buying or selling, who's your homegirl? I'm your homegirl.